This Week in Startups is brought to you by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit gotomeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button and sign up for a 30-day trial.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. Today on the program, Wade Foster is with us. He is with Zapier, sort of like Happier, Zapier. Zapier is a very cool product that I actually use. You can go check it out at zapier.com. And it's really a tool that has been made possible because of so many APIs being prevalent in the world. And now when you are building a startup company, you can weave together multiple different products or services to solve problems without being a developer. And Zapier, along with If This Then That, I would say is probably the main competitor, but they're more consumery, I think. Zapier, to me, seems a little bit more enterprisey. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Yep. But you can do very interesting interplay between programs that used to be the realm of developers only. Did I describe correctly what the product does?
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it there, right?
So as an example, the way I use Zapier is I have Typeform, which is like a form builder. Mm-hmm. And instead of using like Eventbrite, which is a fine service, but Eventbrite charges money, we have a Stripe account, which is another API. We have Typeform, which is a super cool form. I'm actually an investor in Typeform. And when people fill out a form to buy a ticket to a launch festival, they're filling out a Typeform that then hits Stripe for payment. And then after they do that, it tells me from Typeform, it goes to a Google Sheet and copies the record over using Zapier because Typeform didn't have the time to build a Google API. It also then, Typeform will send me an alert on HipChat that somebody bought a ticket if I want to, or somebody on the team will get that, or somebody signed up for the hackathon as a partner or something. And that is also powered by Zapier. So Zapier going from Typeform to HipChat. Mm-hmm. We were able to do all this without any developer doing it, like literally myself or my chief of staff or my executive assistant will be able to do these kind of things. Is this the use case for the product?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? You know, most companies don't have time to build out native integrations between every possible permutation and combination of ways that their end customers might use it. But they do have time to build an API. And so whether it's us or our partners building integrations onto Zapier, it hooks into this big ecosystem of 600 plus apps now. And then regular people who aren't, engineers who couldn't barely spell API, right, are able to come in and, set up these neat little automations in a matter of minutes and get back to the things that are more important about their work than, hooking these little tools up.
Now, you started the company in 2011. Mm-hmm. Why did you start it?
So Bryan and I, Bryan is one of my co-founders, we were doing a lot of freelancing at the time, just kind of basic web work, setting up WordPress shops and stuff like that. And one of the things we get asked to do is what I call API grunt work. Can you get my PayPal sales into QuickBooks for me? Can you get this list of customers into Salesforce for me? It's not particularly exciting work, but it's valuable to the company that needs it.
And it's 10 hours of developer work that you get charged for 5 hours, 1 hour, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Or charge for 10 and it takes 1. Who knows?
Yeah, and engineering rates aren't exactly cheap, right? So,
yep.
We were making okay money on it. It's not exciting, but, we made some money doing that. And so Bryan was like, I think we can build something that really allows these small business owners or really just anyone at these companies to set this stuff up themselves. They don't need to hire us anymore.
Right.
And it'd be a lot more scalable and it'll be a lot more fun and interesting than, working with these APIs kind of, one-off basis.
And so let's show the audience, because some of them are watching the video, and I'll sportscast it for those of you who are just listening on audio. Let's show them how this works. You could pull up your account here, and I see Zapier, Reed Forrester.
Yeah,
and,
there you go. So you have, basic dashboard, and we'll show kind of like a simple use case. So let's say this Twitter mention. So this is kind of similar to the one Jason was just talking about, where you're logging type form entries into a spreadsheet. Well, in this case, we're going to log mention of Zapier to a spreadsheet. So, interface looks kind of like this. You have a couple little options, but basically the gist is you take, mentions of the word Zapier on Twitter, and then you log them into a spreadsheet. And you can see the spreadsheet has a couple different fields where we match, the Twitter URL to the URL in the spreadsheet, and then once it's set up and running, it just kind of pops out all this logging information, right? So you can see, people that have tweeted about Zapier in the last, hour or so that I set this up. And I actually did a kind of cool thing where I'm tracking, how many followers they have, so I can try and do some fun stuff with whoever follows us most that tweets about us.
And this is something that would have been done manually. You might ask some clerical person, or God forbid, like a social media expert or a writer, and say, like, anytime anybody mentions us, make sure we put it into a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well, this is what would be called clerical or white-collar work previously.
Yeah.
And now it's been automated.
Exactly.
But the automation of it is so simple that a clerical person could create the tool that eliminates that clerical work.
Exactly. So that person can go do something that's maybe more mission critical than copying and pasting this stuff out of Twitter on a daily basis, right?
And this is where people who are super efficient and know how to use this level of tools, like it's knowing a Google spreadsheet or Excel, and knowing how to use Twitter, like that was what was an interesting thing to have on your resume 5 or 10 years ago. You know how to use Office. But knowing how to use Zapier or If This Then That or all these other tools, this is where you start to get really good at your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can start doing multiple level queries. Exactly. So what's something a little more sophisticated than just dumping tweets into a spreadsheet?
We can do another basic thing, right? Like, so this uses our new multi-step stuff. So we can do in Slack, we can build basic bots, right?
You can build it in Slack?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So let's do an email address. Can we use your email address?
Sure. You can use my public email address, jason@launch.co.
Launch.co. So this might take a second, but what's happening here, I can actually pull it up. There it is, right? So it popped back, Jason's the CEO of Inside.com, and here's his LinkedIn address, and here's his Twitter profile.
My old Twitter profile, So it's basically you're hitting a bunch of those APIs.
So we can pop over here what we're doing, right? We posted it to Slack. It's plucking out the email address from Slack, and then it's sending it to Full Contact, which is an API lookup tool, and it's saying, hey, go find some more information about this email address that's publicly accessible, and then let's spit it back into Slack, right?
Great.
So now you're able to build kind of these basic little bots that talk to each other.
So that's incredible. So now instead of going into Zapier and using the tool there, you can start to make these queries or these instructions inside of Slack.
Exactly.
So Slack becomes the command line, the operating system.
Exactly. And this can expand to any of the apps you might use. So here's an example of Eileen, who is our user researcher at Zapier. So, part of her job is scheduling interviews with people and making sure they show up on time and all this sort of stuff that goes into just making sure that she can do an interview with somebody. So she's put together this 17-step Zap that goes through, and when someone schedule an event in Calendly, it adds it to Google Calendar. It creates a go-to-meeting event. It goes ahead and sends a Slack message to her that somebody has done this. It goes ahead and logs it in a Google spreadsheet so that she has a record of all the people who have done this. It goes ahead and emails the person a confirmation, and then it waits before the event happens, and a day before the event, it sends them a reminder, hey, you should come to this event. And then it sends a message in Slack publicly saying, hey, folks, on the Zapier team, if you want to come to this session, it's happening now. So here's a thing that is an entire person's job, scheduling and wrangling and trying to get these people to show up and keeping them in the loop.
It's the entire workflow.
Exactly. So she's done it all in one big, long 17 steps. She's thought through the process and said, here are the apps I need to use to make it go together. And she set this up. It took her, maybe 15 minutes to do it.
And test it.
Yeah, and test it, make sure it's working. But now she can go back and so instead of spending, half her day scheduling, she can do twice as many tests with researchers, with users.
All right, when we
really
get back,
cuts down.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that's in the product now, the ability to do those stacked things, because I've never seen that in there.
Yeah, this is new as of a couple weeks ago.
What do you call that?
We call them multi-step Zaps.
Multi-step Zaps. Wow, how creative.
Yeah.
So it's like you take multiple Zaps and you put them together.
Exactly.
It's a
right.
multi-step Zap.
There you go.
I think it's a terrible brand. You got to call them Zap Bots.
Zap bots, all right.
So we're going to rebrand them today. On this
Sounds good.
So when we get back, though, what I want to ask you is, when Zap Bots get up and running, will Zap Bots be able to fire off other Zap Bots to do work when we get back on This Week in Startups? Hey, everybody. Let me stop for a moment, this amazing episode, and tell you about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Yes, they are a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. And Scott Walker is the founder of that company, and he is a personal friend of mine, and he does a great job working with startups. I have literally introduced him to dozens, maybe hundreds now, of startups, and they all rave about the services of the Walker Corporate Law Group because their lawyers have decades of experience. You're not going to get junior associates who are getting on-the-job training with your startup. No. They're going to help you with mergers and acquisitions, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies, formation, all this kind of stuff, fundraising. And they're really great at it. And they do fixed fees. They don't want to surprise people with crazy bills. They think that billable hours can reward inefficiency. So they'll just be fair with you. And that's what I love about them. Because if you're a startup, you don't want to get that sticker shock and get a huge bill. Make sure you use the Walker Corporate Law Group, and you can do that by calling Scott Walker at 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. You can email him, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can visit walkercorporatelaw.com as well. Scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, and let Scott Ed Walker on Twitter know, at Scott Ed Walker, know that you watch the program and you appreciate him supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. One of my oldest advertisers, one of my oldest friends in the industry, just a great guy, a total mensch, and he really takes care of the startups who work with him. Thank you, Scott Walker, for supporting This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get back to this program. Come on. Welcome back to This Week in Startups. My guest, Wade Foster. He is the co-founder and CEO of Zapier, which makes people happier. That's not their tagline, but that's how you can remember how to say it. And it's Zapier. You can go to Zapier.com or follow at Zapier on the Twitter. And you can follow Wade Foster at Wade Foster. So Zapier now does these multi-part Zaps, stacked Zaps, or I call them Zap bots. Obviously, this is like an amazing way to take something, a repetitive task that a white-collar worker does, and basically automate it. So now if you have a bot and, this white-collar worker in human resources creates the entire scheduling bot, can the scheduling bot then fire off another bot? Let's say there was a bot that somebody created in the developer team on, let's say this was the sales team, and the sales manager created a sales bot, a Zap bot, to do sales testing, to test somebody's ability to sell. The HR bot, when it got to step 7, might be when the person is here in the building and they've logged in, fire off this test and send them through this test. Is that what the next step is, to have multi-level Zaps querying other multi-level Zaps?
Yeah, exactly, right? You can see all these cool ways it interacts with them. In fact, you mentioned when someone's in a building, there's a company called Envoy, which allows people to check into office spaces and, collects their information, prints off badges, things like that. So that's exactly
the thing at the when you're at the front desk at Google or whatever, and you sign it and you're like, sign this NDA that nobody ever reads that says if you see something here, you'll never be able to create it in your life again.
There you go. So that's them. But yeah, they can hook into Zapier. So that could be, okay, you chaining off this app. Now when they show up in the building, we need to do this whole other second set of criteria that follow up from that.
So what do you think the future of work is going to be? Because I'm seeing that we don't need as many clerical people to run a larger and larger operation here at launch. For example, we have, I think, 8 or 9 people, and the launch festival has gone every year from, 1,500 people in year 1 to 15,000 in year 8. We've literally gone 10x in 8 years. Wow, that just sort of happened in my head. Actually, it was 500 people the first year, now that I think about it.
Impressive.
Maybe 800 signed up, 500 in the auditorium. So it's really more like a 20x, more than 20x. It's probably, wow. Anyway, putting aside if it's a 20 or 30x change, but the same number of people, because a lot of the things that used to take a lot of time are now becoming more automated. So what's the future of employment, do you think? Because a lot of the low-skilled white-collar jobs are being automated. It's a hot-button issue.
Yeah, it is.
And we can put aside the fact that you and I probably believe that the more jobs will be created because of this.
Yep.
But what's the way for somebody who's listening to become proficient at these things, do you think? And what will the future of work look like for those clerical people? Will they be more like developers? Is everybody going to be a developer? Because let's face it, this is like scripting.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, this is kind of stuff, people get hired to write this kind of stuff today, right? Like, that's what Bryan and I were getting hired to do 5 years ago. We were getting hired to write code that did this stuff.
Yes.
So now, like, a savvy person could probably hire themselves out and pretend that they're writing code, but it's actually Zapier behind the scenes if they wanted to, right?
Right. Are people doing that?
Yeah, some people do that, right? They, say that they, are going to build this stuff, and then they do it, and then they wait a week, and then tell them that they've delivered it. And
Sinister.
Yeah, right.
Clever.
So some clever, some young aspiring entrepreneurs right there, right? So I think in the future you're going to see people just using more and more of these tools that make. I hesitate to say it's coding, but it's like quasi-coding, right? Like, it just
Scripting?
Yeah, it's basic scripting. But
macros?
Macros, that really puts that kind of power in their hand and lets the tools kind of just get out of their way, right? It's like the thing that's more interesting to you is, how do I put on a good event, right?
Right.
Who are the people that I need to have at my event that can talk and give interesting, discussions and engage the audience and all that sort of stuff? How the ticketing system works is just a detail that you don't want to think about. So as much as that can be, automated and pushed into like one simple setup thing, that's what you want to do. And I think that's how these tools are really enabling more and more people to set these kinds of workflows up. So now you don't have to be as savvy as an internet user as you maybe had to be 5 or 10 years ago.
How long does it take you to put a new, let's call it SaaS app or a new integration in there? So if Google came out with a Slack competitor, let's say, which obviously they're going to at some point, how long would it take you to put that into the system? How long did it take you to put HipChat or Slack or Typeform into the system? And is that your work, or is that the work of that third party to plug into Zapier?
Today, it's the work of the third party. So we have a developer platform, zapier.com/developer. It's all public and open. People go there and they build the integrations in. So, Typeform, which we've been talking about, they built their integration on Zapier. Slack, which we mentioned a couple of times, they built their integration on Zapier.
So it's up to them to do it.
Exactly. We do it in some cases, mostly when we're showing new teammates like how to use the platform and
like
things
Google
like that.
probably didn't take the time to do it.
No, exactly.
They're too good for that.
Salesforce, yeah, right. They have big things that they're achieving, and we're just
also,
a
they
small
probably
team.
don't want to enable you. Like, in a way, they're kind of like, I don't know if we want to spend our time building this person's business.
Yeah, I think in some cases that's maybe true if they're really big. You know? But I think for mid-sized and smaller companies, Zapier provides a pivotal role in their company, which is that their customers are begging for integrations, and they don't have the time or energy to build them out. So they can hook into us and just have it all at once.
You charge very little for this. I think we have a couple of professional accounts here, and then people are like, okay, people come to me and ask me, can I get Zapier? And I'm like, it's $20 a month. Like, you're getting paid $25 or $35 or $45 an hour. Like, what do you think? It's the cost of 1 hour of time a month. If it does one thing once a year and saves you 12 hours, it's paid for itself for the entire effing year.
Yes.
It's pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, it should probably be more expensive, shouldn't it?
I mean, I hate to ruin it for everybody at the Zapier party, but it is sort of the promise of software is that you can make up for it with volume. So how many paying customers, how many customers are on the platform, just generally speaking? Is it thousands of people, tens of thousands?
Yeah, so we just passed 1 million registered users, which is pretty exciting.
Maybe 3 or 4% of those pay?
Yeah, exactly. So around 25,000 or so are paying customers. So
it's a real business. You make a couple million bucks a year.
Yeah, it's a real business. It employs 36 people full time, right? So this is
you guys profitable now, break even.
Yeah,
close?
we've been cash flow positive for the last 18 months. This is a real thing.
So this business isn't going anywhere. So then I guess the next question is how big can this business be, and then where does it go next? How does it scale from 1 million people using it to 50 million people using it? Answer that question when we get back from this break. Just think about all the time and effort and money you spend going to meetings, going across town, getting stuck in traffic from Palo Alto all the way up to San Francisco, out to Oakland, traveling across the country, going to Seattle, going down to LA, back to New York. It is exhausting, and it is a waste of time and money. Most meetings could occur with the help of GoToMeeting, and they would occur flawlessly. I know because I do these meetings all the time. In fact, I've been meeting with a dozen entrepreneurs every week over GoToMeeting, back to back to back, recording these meetings and sharing them back with the entrepreneurs as I give them feedback for when they come to the launch festival in March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, in fact. And I can only do it with GoToMeeting because everybody can use any product they have, computer, tablet, smartphone, doesn't matter what operating system, it just works everywhere. And it is HD quality with perfect HD sound and the ability to share screens. And it never hiccups, it never has bandwidth problems, it just always works. And that to me is the key. If you're gonna do these kind of virtualized meetings, they can't be breaking up and they can't have poor fidelity. They have to be perfect. So here is your call to action. This is what I want you to do right now. I want you to go to GoToMeeting.com and try it free for 30 days. There is nothing to lose. Visit GoToMeeting.com and click the Try It Free button. Do it now and have your first meeting up and running in minutes. It literally works so simple that I have like a little Google Calendar Chrome extension where it puts a GoToMeeting button every time I create a meeting, and I just press boop, GoToMeeting, and it generates a code, gives everybody the code, everybody knows the link, boom, and it just works. So go ahead and go to GoToMeeting.com and get your free 30-day trial. It's a great product. I've been using it for years. I love it. It's a pleasure for me to read an ad about GoToMeeting because I don't have to read it because I use it. It's literally on the list of my top 10, 20 products that I use every week. It just makes me super efficient in meeting with entrepreneurs. So thanks to our friends at GoToMeeting. And if you're a super fan of the show, go ahead and thank @GoToMeeting on Twitter. They love to see your support of the program. Okay, let's get back to this episode. Hey, everybody, welcome back. One of my favorite products is finally on the program, Zapier. Now, you guys know I've been using this product for a couple of years because I wouldn't shut up about it.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about it on the show a couple times, and so finally I was like, hey,
that's kind of fun to get blown up, right?
Yeah,
right. And then your friends are like, hey, you just got blown up on the show.
Yeah. I listen to the show, but I don't hear every episode, and every now and then people will say, hey, Jason talked about it again, so I'll have to go listen to that episode.
It's 104 episodes a year. Trust me, I don't listen to all of them. I can't believe how much content we're producing
I know,
here.
it's crazy.
They're trying to kill me. You know what the problem is? And you're going to have this problem right now. We're talking about your business getting so great, and you have 1 million people using the product, and whatever, low single digits are now paying you. You become a victim of your own success, and then they start booking more and more shows. And you're like, hey, can I get 2 weeks off for vacation? Like, that's 4 episodes. We're sold out. And they're $5,000 per ad. Yep. You know what happens if I want to take a week off?
I don't know. Everyone loses
$20,000.
Yep, that's a lot of money.
If I go on vacation.
Yeah.
So you know what? There's literally zero vacation in the schedule.
Oh, goodness. Look what you've created. It's
a disaster.
Yeah, a blessing and a curse.
It is. I feel like Kanye. In a way, I feel I feel like I'm the Kanye of the industry. Now I'm 53. Did you see Kanye going crazy today?
You're going to have to ask Zuck
what do I do?
some...
I need $1 billion from Zuck. Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Watching Kanye go crazy today has been hilarious.
Oh, it's insane, yeah.
This is why I think we should never get rid of the 140 character limit. I was pro getting rid of the 140 character limit.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, then people can write a reasoned response and they can think about their thoughts. They could, make a blog post.
Yeah.
But if you do that, then that does not create a manic episode
Oh, yeah.
like Kanye going crazy, because if you can only write it in like a sentence or a half a sentence,
There's no context, right? You can only fit in so much.
right?
And
So then you seem crazy.
Yep, you can. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff comes out of the 140 characters.
You don't see people going crazy on Facebook. They write a
No.
thesis. They're like, wow, this seems crazy. They hit delete.
Yep.
But if you're sitting there and it's 1 a.m. and you've been up all night and maybe,
Yep.
you smoked a J and then you had an espresso,
Yeah.
well,
one
I don't know what
tweet after
Kanye's
another,
into.
and yeah.
You just these things start coming out.
Yeah, and you can't edit them or anything, so they just go, right?
And if you
could
delete them,
but
then you know what
good
that
luck.
causes.
Yeah,
Then every screenshot of it comes out. Why did you delete it?
exactly. Yeah. So
mental illness, drug abuse, 140 character limit. Any of those things combined
some
equals
theater.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't know if Kanye's mentally ill or any of these people, but it's like it's almost like a breakdown occurring, or it's performance art. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, I would bet it's performance art, but I don't know.
I'm hoping performance
Yeah.
art. But he literally said he's $53 million in debt.
Some interesting social
Dynamics.
just playing out in public for us all to kind of observe and watch.
And they're saying, and this company's lost 80% of its value. I mean, if anything should rebound the stock, it's Kanye's meltdown.
Yeah, right.
This is worth at least $3 or $4 per share.
Yeah, you don't get that anywhere else.
It's not happening on Facebook. It's not happening on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Nowhere. It never happened on MySpace. It's a unique platform adding to the mania of celebrities and delusional people everywhere.
Yep.
So speaking of APIs and Twitter, how is Twitter and them pulling back on their API and then changing their mind now? When you look at that kind of change, did that change how you build your service? Because there's some limits, aren't there?
There are. And you see this often with consumer platforms, right? Who are figuring out their platforms. Twitter has done this. LinkedIn's done this. Facebook is notorious for doing this.
Pulling the rug out from under developers?
Yeah, or
sort of?
just changing things, right? It's not always pulling the rug out. It's just, they're trying.
Just in those three cases, it was.
It was, yeah. But they're trying a new thing, trying a different thing here, right? And the thing there is that their customer is ad buyers, right? And so that's who they end up serving. And so the API platform has to serve the ad buyers as well. And so that kind of creates an interesting friction that you don't necessarily get in B2B, right? When you're looking at Salesforce developer platform, it's all about empowering the end user of Salesforce.com. And so the API is built to empower people to use more of Salesforce and get even more out of Salesforce. They don't care if you log into Salesforce every day. They care if you're getting value out of the data that's in Salesforce. So if the API helps you get data into Salesforce and pull data out of Salesforce and makes Salesforce more sticky, then of course Salesforce is going to invest more in their API.
The more integrations you build, the less likely you are to get rid of that core component.
Exactly, right?
Because it's a building block.
It is. It's this, and that's what you see with like Slack blowing up, and why they've done so much to invest in integrations is because it makes Slack sticky. And you don't want to leave anymore because
it is interesting. One of the reasons we didn't leave HipChat for Slack, even though some people on the team were like, well, I'm using Slack for this other project. Can we move over to Slack? I was like, you know what? We have so much Zapier plus HipChat. I don't want to spend a weekend or two like changing all the integrations. And then the people who are on Slack with my other company, Inside's on Slack, and then launches on HipChat, they have the opposite problem. It's like, oh yeah, we built all these custom integrations and that they built themselves. You can't get off Slack, right?
Yeah.
And
what happens when someone leaves the company? And
the whole thing is super complicated. So with Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, then you're saying, hey, you could remove the core value could be extracted from those consumer platforms, and then a third party could kind of take away the business that should be their core business.
Right. That's
their concern.
That's what Twitter was worried about, right? With people basically replicating the Twitter feed in Twitter clients, right? It's like now you don't have to use twitter.com or our officially sanctioned Twitter clients. You're using some third-party client that maybe isn't pulling in ads in a way and getting, showing ads to users.
Was that a mistake? In your mind? Would you do the same thing?
It's tough to know if I was in their shoes. It sure angered a lot of developers, right? And I think it seemed to have hurt them, right? you don't see nearly as much interesting things happening within
On
the Twitter developer ecosystem as you did, 4 or 5 years ago.
So if Twitter were to allow people again to make their own clients and to display the feed however they wanted and just have fun with it, that'd probably be a good move.
I think it would. It may be, I don't know if it's too little too late, or, it's certainly, I don't know that it would hurt too much, right?
All they have to say is you can't monetize it. Monetize.
Yep.
I say it wrong. Monetize. But you can't monetize it, right? So if you want to do it, you just can't insert ads into the stream. If you want to put ads in, you have to put our ads in.
Yep.
And so if you created, Wade's and I created Jason's Twitter client, and we had different ideas of why ours were better, we could put in Twitter ads and then take a percentage of them, but we couldn't put a third-party ad in. That'd be a fine concession.
Yeah, it might be, and it all comes down, Twitter's operating at a huge billion-dollar scale, right? So now the thing is Wade's Twitter client or Jason's Twitter client enough of a big deal for them? And I guess they probably run the numbers and said, it's just not that big of a deal for us. But I don't know. I'm not Twitter.
It's interesting because if you think about it, Google allows you to do search from Firefox, Chrome, Opera, or any flavor of browser, Dolphin, and they give you 30% if you have your own browser of whatever search results come up. So we're getting 70%.
Yeah.
So if I was running Twitter, if I was Jack, you should just say anybody who makes their own client can take 30% of whatever revenue is shown in that client. Because it would just drive people to create more interesting clients.
Yeah.
So if I want to create just basketball, just all the basketball stars, you open it up, it's basketball Twitter, and I take a third of the revenue or 30% of the revenue, they're still getting 70%, and it might make people who are into basketball more interested in Twitter.
Exactly. And I mean, that's how the Apple iOS platform works, right? 70-30 split, I think, is what it is. Same deal, right? So it seems like a path that's been gone down before, and it seems to work for.
So what's the future of your company? You get a company in Silicon Valley. You started in 2011. You went through Y Combinator. I'm assuming you raised a couple $1 million or something. And you got a 100% distributed team with no central office. So you have 36 people working from home.
Yep.
So you're kind of like that Matt Mullenweg.
Yeah.
Like
automatic. Yep.
How do you know that people are working? How do you manage that issue?
People leave a digital trail, right, when they work these days, whether it's Slack logs or GitHub commits or, publications on a blog or what have you. There is a digital trail of did you do this thing or not, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really what it comes down to. And in a lot of ways, I think it's more efficient because now you're looking at the byproduct of the work rather than necessarily looking out over the room and seeing people in the chair, which isn't work in and of itself.
Absolutely. It's a lot more pure.
Exactly.
And do you actually do that, or do you just spot check it? How does one manage this distributed workforce like this at scale?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to manage 10 people in a chat room, but to manage 36 and then eventually 100, slightly different, right?
Yeah, it is a little different. We have a pretty basic way we do it, which is every week people write what we call a Friday update. And so we have an internal blog. You publish, hey, here's what I took care of this week. Here's what I'm going to tackle next week. And here's some fun stuff I'm doing this weekend or whatever, right?
That's cute.
Yeah, which is nice for remote. But then whoever the team leads are, they can go through, check, make sure that, people on the team are making progress. And not just making progress on the task, but are they making progress in the right direction, right? Do we have one person running this way and one person running that way? Well, if so, maybe we need to reconsider how we operate, right? And so those Friday updates are just a really quick, easy way so everyone knows, like, hey, this is the pulse of Zapier. This is kind of what is moving.
And you put it on an internal blog. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's all public and transparent on the internal blog, so everyone kind of knows here's what's happening. And you can go read anyone else's if you want, right? So like an engineer can go check out what's happening in marketing, can go check out what's happening in support.
So it's just like a WordPress blog or something?
Yeah, we used to use a WordPress blog called P2, which is the same thing that Automatic uses. We actually have now built our own variant of it because it was so important for us that we were like, we wanted to specialize it in a few ways.
I love that idea, though. It's just like, and so you get to work from home, but you have to self-report.
Exactly, right?
So the cost is like, because some people get offended when you're like, write down a list of everything you did, like for the week, and it's like, are you micromanaging me? And it's like, no, you get to work from home, dude or dudette. Like,
Yeah,
it's pretty freaking cool.
Exactly, and I don't think it's, write every single micro task down, right? Like, it's more just, hey, give us the broad overview. Like, tell me where to go look. If I want to see the specifics of that commit, like, just link me to the commit so I can go see, all right, here's the, hundreds of lines of code you wrote this week. Here's how it works, right? Here's it's tested. All right, a manager can make sure, do code review. Not just a manager, a teammate. Like, a lot of
check
stuff.
in on it, yeah.
Yeah, you rely on your teammates that are doing work too. So, like, you have to collaborate. You have to be able to check these updates, make sure that teammates have access to what other teammates are doing and can benefit from that shared work.
So how do you go, what's the next phase for the company for you? Because it seems like you got to a couple million in revenue, you got the Y Combinator, you did everything right. You're one of the 10 companies, let's say, that graduates from an incubator that doesn't die, right? Of your contemporaries in 2011, half are gone.
Yeah.
And then of the half that aren't gone, probably half of those are zombies, let's face it.
Yeah, there's maybe 5 or 10 from our batch that I think that I still know of that are operating for
So that'd
sure.
be like, you probably had 40 or 50 in your batch?
There was, I think, 80 in our batch totally.
Oh, you had an 80 batch?
Yeah.
Which is crazy when you think about it, how big it got.
Yeah, I mean, they've grown a lot and scaled a lot.
Now it's 120.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's crazy when it's that big, isn't it?
It seems like they're doing a lot better job of organizing it and managing it and, keeping tabs on the company.
You were one of the last batches that Paul actually...
We were towards the end. So Sam was around, but he wasn't running it at that time.
Yeah. Like Paul, because I remember Paul saying, like, 80 might be too much. Maybe we should go to 60. And then Sam took over and was like, 120.
Yeah.
Let's have 2 demo days back to back. It's just like, this is getting tired. I was in the audience. I was like, wow, 2 days. This is exhausting.
Yeah, well, 2 days of anything, even the most amazing thing in the world.
And how many minutes on stage did you have? 2 or 4?
2 or 3. Like, it's nothing, right? You have, like, you get to say, hey, we're going up and to the right, and things are great. Come talk to us, right?
That's like the big complaint about everybody is now like, it's kind of manufactured, the charts, because like how much traction do you actually have at that point?
Yeah, it's tough, right? The people we ended up raising from at demo day actually were people we talked to even before. I think only one person that we met at demo day, and it was folks like, like people who used our product, and thought it was cool and interesting. And we kept tabs on and said, hey, we're not raising now, but when we do, I'll let you know. And so that's kind of.
So what's next? How do you build this into a very large business, or does it just grow at like a steady pace? Like, what is your goal for it now?
So I think, the world is getting more fragmented with the tools we use, right? Like, even you see in large organizations, an individual team will maybe use a dozen applications, but then across the entire org, they're probably maybe using 50 plus tools. This is companies like Okta have reported on this and shown, the huge proliferation of apps that are being used. And so where Zapier comes in is to try and help make some organization out of this like chaos that's all these different apps and get more utility out of this so that, when you're looking across an organization between marketing and sales or support, how can you take the data that each of these companies is collecting and put it to use in ways that are automated and valuable, right? Like, you want to get data at the right time to the right people. So kind of that, just-in-time mentality. And I think, with what we've done already with multi-step Zaps, you're on a route to doing that. But I think there's probably a lot of other ways that you can build utility, whether it's search or whether it's, kind of better monitoring of these tools and alerts. I think there's a lot that can be built around
knowing
this.
that the Zaps are working and how well they're working. How do you, when you have a product this complex and that's this flexible, right? Like because you can do so many different things, it's easy to wind up doing nothing. And you really have to start thinking about the use cases. How good are you at content marketing it and getting your user base to understand stuff? As an example, I didn't even know you had the multi-step Zaps yet, right? And one of the things about Zapier I find is I forget that I have it because I set it up to solve a specific task.
It's an invisible tool too, right?
It is an invisible tool, right? Like I don't have to log in to actually experience it. It's just occurring in the background. And so I've always wondered with a product like yours, it's almost like I wish there was somebody who'd come in and audit our company and teach everybody in our company, like all 8 or 9 or 10 people in launch, here's how it works. Here's how to leverage it. Go.
Yep, totally. Yeah, this is something we actually started experimenting with early this year. Like, we have Jess, who's running our concierge program, who is doing this, right?
Concierge.
So, yeah, fancy name, right?
I like that idea, though.
So yeah, Jess will talk to a person and say, hey, you're using these 5 or 6 apps, well, based on what we've seen across our hundreds of thousands of other people who are using Zapier, have you thought about setting this up? Would this be valuable? I can set this up for you, right?
Wow.
So we started experimenting with this. I think some early signs are pretty positive. I think this is pretty common in a lot of industries, right? You have like a services component to the company. So we'll see if that's something that ends up taking off or not. But I think it is. I think a lot of people are in similar boats to you, is they've got this tool, right? It's like having a spreadsheet. You have a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
What
can
do
it
with
do?
the spreadsheet,
Yeah, what can
right?
it do? Right? How could this help me get my job done?
Exactly. So you've got all these tools now laying around, and you just need like a little inspiration to figure out what's the next. What do I do with it, right?
What else can a person do? Do you have more examples here? Or?
Oh my goodness! So you can do all sorts of stuff.
What's the most like crazy creative stuff you've seen people do? Because I know that the Internet of Things and the connected home and some of these things are starting to make this seem quite futuristic, which is to say, like I have a Tesla, and if my Tesla connects to the Wi-Fi at home, or if my Tesla is outside of a certain driving area, like I don't know if Tesla API is in there yet. I don't think
Nope.
haven't made it public. Have any car companies, like I know Automatic is one that makes that plug-in for the ODD
They do,
port.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Is that in Zapier yet?
No, they aren't. Mm-mm.
Not yet. So when are those kind of things going to start happening? Because I've been using the Amazon Echo.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And is the Echo hooked up yet?
I don't think they are either.
Okay, this is the one you've got to do. Do you have an Echo yet?
A few teammates have Echoes, and they can't stop raving about it. It's
insane.
Yeah.
This is going to change Zapier.
Yep.
Like literally, I think people will start having Echoes in their office.
Yeah, commands to just do anything, right?
Well, I could be sitting in the office with a bunch of people. I could say, Alexa, tell me how many people have signed up for the Launch Festival.
Oh, that's great, right?
And it would just say, sign up, Launch Festival equals Typeform. Or I could say, Alexa, check Typeform. Tell me how many hackathon applications there are.
Exactly.
And it would know hackathon applications is this database, and boom, just read you the total number.
Totally. And it's like this, you've basically created like this private little search engine, right, of all your company's data now that you can ask Alexa, hey, report it back to me. So without having to set up the queries yourself to hook into whether it's Typeform or MailChimp or Salesforce or Zendesk or any of these other tools, you can just say, hey, Alexa, how many tickets do we have right now? Like, are we overworked, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how much revenue are we making today? Is it a good day?
Who unsubscribed from Zapier today?
Exactly.
And it's like, you had 17 people unsubscribe.
Totally.
This one was a customer for 18 months.
Yep. Who was our biggest account that we lost today?
Crazy.
Yep.
It really is amazing what they've built. They now have, I think it learns skills is what they call it. So Alexa has skills that she can learn, or I think you can name it something else. So I don't know what other name she could have that he can learn. It's a female. I don't know why all these are always female, but
Alexa's gender neutral, I think.
Is it?
I think, yeah.
But I think it's a she. Like it's a female voice. I mean, by default, they always seem to have women. It might be a little sexist now that I'm thinking about it, because it's always for clerical stuff.
Yeah,
they're going to have to work on that. I think that there's a bunch of feminists out there who need to get on this. Like, why are we naming our bots
after women?
Yeah, that's it.
That is.
It's
right.
always, why does it always have to be women who are doing the clerical work? We have to change this. That would be good actually if by default it was like Alexander. Or like a butler. They should make it a butler.
Yeah.
But you can actually program skills into it, which I think is going to be really interesting when you start thinking about audio commands, because it really hasn't worked to date.
Yeah.
But if audio commands started to work, and audio instructions, it could be super big for you guys.
Yeah, I think part of it is that it's, just voice to text is really rough, right? So
not anymore.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better, right?
This thing has microphones in it.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Like, you could be 100 feet away from it and you're like, Alexa, play jazz. And it's just like...
I got that. Yeah.
Boom, playing jazz from your mix. And it's like, it's really compelling. What are the services that you guys want to add and that you'll add in the future that you think will be like the holy grail and really sort of... that are frustrating that you can't add them today, but that you could? Like, there's a wish list of things that, like, why doesn't Google allow us to put search in here? Or,
well, I think
Google search is a closed ecosystem, right? There's no API for it.
I don't know. I think it is closed. I mean, the one that we're waiting for bated breath with is Microsoft's Office suite, right? Like traditionally. Excel and Outlook and Word and all that stuff have been kind of a closed ecosystem. So I guess we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic that this will
Office
happen,
365
right? Yeah,
now that
they're definitely moving in that direction, right? They've had some announcements around APIs coming soon, sort of thing. So we're pretty excited about that because the world's still, like, as much as we like to talk about new tools and we've talked about all the cool tools we've used today, the world still runs on email and spreadsheets. Like most businesses are using that still.
Yeah.
And so just getting access to the world's most popular email and spreadsheet tool is pretty exciting, even if it is kind of boring.
It's really an amazing product. I highly recommend people go take a look at it. It's super cheap. 5 plans, and they range from free to $125 a month. And then, have you gotten into any huge enterprises yet, or do they just let the groups just put them on their corporate cards and that's it?
Pretty much. People will hit that 125 limit every now and then and ask us for higher plans, and we oblige willingly, of course. But we haven't. It's still all self-serve credit cards. We don't have a sales team or anything like that today.
Well, if you want to see how your job is going to be replaced and you're in a clerical position, go here and see how you're going to have to compete with people who can write scripts to do repetitive tasks. It is truly amazing. And then my thesis on this is that you're going to have a group of people who become almost like all the clerical workers in the world are going to become almost like not low-level programmers in that sense. I would say that's the wrong way to say it because there are actually low-level programming is harder. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have people who are literally the receptionist is going to be able to create macros and scripts.
Yeah, they're like workflow designers, right?
It's like Lotus Notes. My first job as a developer, and I'm using developers with air quotes, was I was like a script kiddie on Lotus Notes where I could say take this data from this place, forward it to this person, have them sign it, and then if they've signed it, forward it to the next.
Yep.
It was like workflows.
Yeah, I was a Visual Basic Excel jockey, right? So
exactly the same thing, right?
Yep.
If this person has signed this off, then the next person signs. Go ahead and check it out, Zapier. It is an amazing product. I'm in love with it. I've been using it for at least 2 or 3 years. It is fantastic. And you've only raised $1 million?
Yep, 1 million and change, yeah.
You're capital efficient, huh?
Yeah,
You're making more money per year than you've raised.
Correct.
That's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen what the markets did in these last few weeks. It's I think capital efficiency is back in style, thank goodness.
But you've only had to dilute 20% of your cap table.
I very much like that.
So you get to own this huge chunk of your own company and be in control of your own destiny.
Yep.
It's good. You're doing it right, Wade. Mm-hmm. And you listen, most startups fail. And every year that goes by, when you started in 2011, now it's 4 or 5 years later, guess what? You are you're going to be like 8 of 80 or 16 of 80 that survive that class.
Yep, and just keep going.
And just keep going. If you're not dead, you're doing well.
Yep. We made it 5 years. Now we got to make it 5 more, right?
Yeah, and you got to figure out
keep growing it.
Keep growing it. And the great thing about the fact that you've been so capital efficient is that if somebody came and bought the business for 25 or 50 million off of you, it'd be a huge success for you as an individual founder. If you had raised 15 million, you would have had to have a valuation of 25 or 50 million. Therefore, you would not be able to sell because the VCs would be like, well, I'm just going to get my money back. This sucks. Yep. Or I'm going to get double. I'm going to get $2 for every one I invested. I don't want this.
Yeah, the downside is a lot better for founders in these cases. Of course, that's not something we ever really think about or care about. But if the world were to turn,
even in a modest sale, and you know what, this is a business that could become wildly profitable. There might be some catalytic moment here. Has there been a catalytic moment during the last 3 or 4 years where it's just spiked, or has it just been slow and steady?
It's been slow and steady. Keep growing, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Trying to do the triple, double thing that.
What does that mean? Triple, double?
Yeah, right. You triple one year, triple the next year, double the next year, double the next year, and double the next year, right? And eventually, before you know it, you're a $30 million revenue business, right? So,
perfect.
I think some VC probably said that somewhere. It sounds like
I've heard something similar, yeah.
Yep.
Everybody check out Zapier. Go sign up for it and start using it. It's great and it's affordable. And it will make you, literally, if you're working in a business, don't tell anybody you did it. Pay for it on your personal
card. Or maybe tell a few people.
Don't tell anybody. Get all the credit in the world for setting this up. Your boss will love you. And then after he or she fires everybody else in the company, show them how you did it. No. Literally, it makes your people bionic. I think that's the lesson here is that you can keep your company of a moderate size, but scale without scaling the number of humans.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's the future.
Exactly, right? It's super cool when a team of 10 can do what it used to take a team of 50 to do.
Absolutely, you're bionic. I call it bionic.
Yeah.
And I think it's like this is where like people who don't have the coding skill can become bionic. So efficient. It's like you're good.
It's pretty cool too because the types of businesses that you can build now are a lot more interesting, right? Like now you can maybe something that wasn't possible because the margins were too slim or whatever. You now can automate a lot of pieces of it. So some of these business ideas that maybe might not have worked 5
because you needed 4
ago.
people, now you need 1.
Yeah, exactly.
For every 4, you need 1.
Exactly. So it kind of opens up a lot of new kind of business ideas and things like that. So.
All right, listen, everybody go try multi-step Zaps as well. I'm going to be doing multi-step Zaps when I get off the program today. The API integration is super powerful and yeah, go sign up. You got nothing to lose. I think there's a free account too, so you can play with it.
free account. Totally.
Go play with it.
Play to your heart's desire.
Thanks, Wade, for coming on the program, and thank you to our friends at WeWork, our sponsors, of course, and we'll see you all at the Launch Festival, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the Launch Hackathon on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of February. 1,000 developers signed up. It's really great. We've got a lot of people coming. All right, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.